Hey everyone, Texas Signal here. Kevin Nix. I'm here with Texas Democratic Party.
Hey, Brittany Switzer, Senior Brand Director over at the Texas Democratic Party. How are you?
Good, thanks. Here with Keir Murray as well.
Howdy.
Again, this is our second week to do this. Glad to be back. Hopefully this will continue. But look, I want to start with, we had Democrats win some mayoral races this past weekend in Dallas and San Antonio. What is y'all's take on those races, Brittany?
Yeah, so one thing that we know is all politics is local. People across Texas are, living their day-to-day lives in their cities and neighborhoods. We're really proud to run a program called Project Lift, which is a local investment in the future of Texas. So we can have some good governance at the local level. In both Dallas and San Antonio, we saw strong Democrats elected in both cities. And we're really proud that the second and third largest city in our state remained in Democratic hands.
It was a little sort of prickly or tricky in San Antonio. It seems like it was a little bit of a close race because that had an actual Republican and Democrat. What's your take on San Antonio politics, either of you?
In San Antonio, the Texas Democratic Party was really proud to endorse Mayor Ron Nirenberg as part of our Project Lift program. And we were also really proud of the role that we played in helping them with strategic guidance and resources during the runoff process. And then most importantly, San Antonio showed that, Trump-style politics have no place in their city. We're really proud of that. The future of Texas is brighter, it's more diverse and inclusive, and I think San Antonio really showed that.
It seems to me, too, that, while the races in San Antonio are ostensibly nonpartisan, you had the incumbent Mayor Nirenberg, who's on the progressive side of the aisle, versus a conservative council member running in the runoff. And I wonder, there was a fairly controversial issue where the city denied the Chick-fil-A franchise a place in the San Antonio airport in a lower turnout type of municipal election. Sometimes that can create a backlash among a small but very motivated base of voters who probably turned out in outsized proportion to what they normally would in a larger electorate. So I wonder if that maybe was a contributing factor in making the race closer than it might otherwise have been.
Yeah, and we saw in the Texas legislature too, Republicans trying to, quote, save Chick-fil-A. I think Chick-fil-A is doing pretty well. Lines are always out in the street. But also Texans know that y'all means all. Love is love. And that's really what we're fighting for here. And we're really proud of the city of San Antonio and Mayor Ron Nirenberg for supporting those values.
So now with Houston, right? We saw a new candidate enter the race this past weekend to sort of go up against Mayor Turner and others. What is your take here on Dwight Boykin's entry into the race? Well,
I think it has some impact on the race. The degree to which it affects it, I think, remains to be seen. But Councilmember Boykins, like Mayor Turner, is African American. And there's some belief, I think, on his part that he represents an opportunity to split some of the mayor's natural base in this race. How much he's able to do that remains to be seen. He's secured the endorsement of the local firefighters union, which has been at odds with Mayor Turner over this pay parity issue that was on the ballot last November and which passed handily here in the city of Houston. But it remains, I have to say, that it remains very difficult to defeat an incumbent mayor in Houston. It's happened, the last time it happened was 1991. The mayor is a very strong, he or she is the face of city government. They have tremendous fundraising capability, tremendous power. In his case, his other two primary opponents are sort of right of center guys, Bill King and Tony Busby, and the city remains overwhelmingly Democratic. So Councilman Boykins is also a Democrat. To the extent to which he may or may not be able to divide the mayor's base Maybe the difference between the mayor, for example, winning outright in November or being forced into a December runoff.
But we did just add they just added some drama to this otherwise stayed affair so far. Yeah,
the race has been pretty stable for several months. Again, you've had King and Busby out there for months as challengers. In case of Busby, he's been running television ads on and off since before the first of the year. Those continue now. The race, candidly, has been fairly negative in tenor throughout the process so far. We may yet see other entrants into the race. Filing does not close until the later part of August. And once the field is actually set, I think then you'll sort of see how this dynamic plays out. But my gut is we're probably now looking at a runoff situation.
Back to the legislature, Brittany, you mentioned it a minute ago. In addition to the Chick-fil-A bill, right? There's also, at least at the executive office level, San Antonio Express News reported that the governor's office was involved somehow in the voter purge that is made horrible headlines all over the country. What do you all think about? Where do we go from here on this? Right, we know that certain Republicans are trying to suppress the vote. I guess I'm interested in what do Democrats do about it?
Mm-hmm. Right. So if the reports are true, a sitting governor trying to stop Texans from voting and retain his own political power at any cost is wrong. And falsely accusing 100,000 Texans of committing a crime is wrong. Where we go from here is we have to make sure that, we're doing everything we can to protect the voting rights of Texans. It is incredibly important that, we make sure our neighbors who are eligible are registered to vote, and our family and friends, and that we talk to them about what's at stake in the election coming up. Because more and more Texans are voting. Our state is, more people are coming into their voting power, and that's really important, and we want to make sure that they have a good experience voting, whether it's their first time or they vote in every election.
Final question for you. We, here at the Signal, we dinged Chuck Todd the other day on Twitter for some comments he made about Texas, and he was on the fence about whether or not it's a swing state. Basically, what do you think about these DC pundits who love to opine on the Lone Star State from up there in DC?
I will forever be screaming it at the top of my lungs. Texas is the biggest battleground state. A lot of us don't care what, these DC pundits have to say. Texas is the biggest battleground state. Poll after poll after poll is showing that Texas is competitive. We're seeing Democrats at the presidential level who are, tied or beating Donald Trump in Texas. And ultimately, Texas performed better than, what I would call older battleground states like Iowa and Ohio in 2016. And then in 2018, we also performed better than Iowa. So poll after poll, just where the election results have ended up in the past few election cycles, Texas is the biggest battleground state. And we'll be here when, these DC pundits come around to tell them I told you so.
I think she's absolutely right. And again, we've talked about this before, but if you want any clearer indication, look no further than what the Trump campaign is actually doing, right? We've talked about this in the past, but it was confirmed again with new data this week. They're spending more money in Texas on digital advertising than any other state in the country. Yeah. They've beefed up their staff here, doubled their communications presence. You don't do that in a state where you think you're in great shape. The other side knows they have a problem in this state. So it's time for folks here in the Lone Star State on the progressive side of the aisle to wake up to this grand new reality. We are in the ball game.
Right.
Big time. Big league.
Big time. Big league. So, Brittany, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah, take care.